So there are claims that President Trump can fire federal workers during a government shutdown. This has created a lot of fear and confusion within the federal workforce, because we have over 500,000 federal workers right now that are sitting at the house. They're not at work and they're not getting paid, at least not yet. They could all be targets, right? Targets to cut in a reduction in force. But is it legal? Will it happen? You see, when a shutdown occurs, federal agencies have to abide by something called the Anti-Deficiency Act, meaning they cannot spend money they do not have. Congress controls the money. Not the agency, not the President of the United States. Congress controls the money. And a reduction in force, it requires resources. First, you need HR there. Are they furloughed? Maybe they're not furloughed. You need HR there. What about severance pay? How are you going to pay severance pay? There's no money, at least not yet. A reduction in force is a time-consuming process. It's a resource-intensive process. And to be able to do that during a time of a shutdown is really unheard of. Does that mean it won't happen? It shouldn't happen. It will be legally challenged every step of the way, much like a lot of things in 2025. And just because it's going to be legally challenged, that doesn't mean the administration won't try to do it. During a shutdown, agencies, they decide who is essential and who is not essential. The essential individuals, they still have to work. Even though they're not getting paid just yet, they have to work. The non-essential, they're not getting paid and they're staying at home. Now, the essential individuals, these should be people that are necessary for national security, for protecting life or protecting government property. Now, I'm pretty sure that 3/4 of the federal workforce, they don't meet one of those three categories. So it is very clear to see that they're making, when I say they, I mean the Trump administration, they are pushing agencies to have maximum amount of people working that they can. The anticipation initially was 750,000 government workers would be furloughed. In reality, it's 200,000 less than that. It's 550. Instead, this OMB memo that came out, and also what we're hearing from the Trump administration, is being used to create fear and intimidation. So why do that? What is to be gained by doing that? Well, number one, it advances a political agenda. So it lets the federal workforce know that your job continues to be in danger. It's not over. Just because we had the probationary purge, just because we had a couple of rounds of DRP, it is by no means over. So it could persuade individuals to retire who haven't done it yet, or to resign who decided that they were going to hold the line, stick with it, and now maybe this is a little extra nudge to get you to resign. That could be one thing. Next thing, it could be influencing public perception. So when there is talk about cutting the federal workforce, that energizes the Trump administration's base. It makes them excited. Not just the voters, but also the donors, the people that are cutting the checks. Now, President Trump is allegedly a billionaire, right? But still, he was able to attain over $1 billion from donors for his presidential campaign throughout 2024. He was able to get money donated to him. So those donors, they don't just help Trump, they help his allies as well. So this is sending a signal to them. Hey, we're abiding by what we said. We're following Project 2025. Keep the money flowing. And it also positions the administration as being tough on government spending, tough on the deep state. Even though a government shutdown, if you look at the number 550,000 people being furloughed, every day that goes by, it cost over $100 million. That's how much the government shutdown cost. That's not efficient. That's not effective. You are not being a steward of the taxpayer dollars by having a shutdown or encouraging a shutdown. Not just that, but every week that the government is shut down, it lowers this country's GDP. It lowers it by over $1 billion by some estimates. Now, this also pressures Congress, and Congress has been pressured a lot lately, and I'm talking mainly about the Democratic lawmakers. So the way that it's being portrayed and painted, the way that all the pieces are coming together, is the Trump administration is saying the Democrats are to blame from the shutdown. They are to blame. And once there's enough political pressure, when people start getting frustrated and angry and they're not receiving their paychecks and government services are moving slower and the airport's delayed and the food inspections aren't going through the way that they're supposed to be going through, all that stuff builds up and the public is going to look for someone to blame. And we're seeing the Trump administration paint that picture of the Democrats are to blame. And this is kind of counterintuitive, it's a little bit ironic because the Democrats are typically the party of the federal government. They're the party of bigger government. The unions of the federal workers, they endorse Democratic lawmakers during their campaigns. It's just something that is done. So it's bizarre to see this at this time, and it's interesting to see if it'll actually work. Now, we had 2 Democratic senators already break away from Chuck Schumer, and that was somebody that was Fetterman in Pennsylvania, and also there was a senator in Nevada that broke away trying to pass a clean CR. That didn't happen. Now, it shouldn't be said, but obviously federal employees should not be used as political pawns. And that's clearly what's happening right here. When you play politics with federal workers, really it shows just how little regard you have for the civil servant. And a lot of these individuals, they're in charge of protecting America, making America safer. So you can look at scientists, food inspectors, air traffic controllers, law enforcement. They all have the mission to serve the public. And you have some federal workers thinking right now, well, I don't mind. This is like an extended vacation for me. I have enough in savings to last months, so I'm just going to use this time, focus on me, and just enjoy myself. And that could be fine for you, especially if you're a GS-14 or a GS-15 in a major metropolitan area. Maybe you love it. But what about the GS-6 in Mississippi or the GS-7 in Arkansas, who might be living paycheck to paycheck or who might already be deeply in debt? Are they going to make it? They might make it, but it's going to be painful. And if you're in that situation where you can't go 1 or 2 paychecks without everything falling apart, who's going to pay the bills? How are we going to get food on the table? If you're in that situation, there are programs being announced where you have financial institutes that are willing to lend you money at a low interest rate or 0%. Now, I've seen some that were 0%, but at the very least, you should do it for a low interest rate. Do not take this time and take out debt on a credit card that has like a 23% APR interest rate. That's crazy. That's going to destroy you. So if you're in a position where you have to take debt, make sure it's low to no interest if you can find it. What we do know right now is a lot of human resource personnel that were working on reduction in force plans, they're going to keep working on it. Now, any new plans, I haven't heard of any new initiatives to actually coming from an agency that's actually trying to cut in addition to what was already planned to be cut. But we're going to have to keep our eye on that. Another big issue that we're having, aside from this, we have a lot of younger workers that are escaping the federal government. They don't want to work in the federal agencies anymore. They're leaving civil service and they're going to jump right into the private sector, or they're working for lower levels of government. And it's not really any surprise, but you know who is surprised? The OPM director is surprised because he thinks the messaging is wrong. He thinks if we get the messaging right, we can get some of this young, fresh talent coming out of university. Obviously, that's delusional. But if you want to get to the root of the problem, if you're interested in that, I want you to check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the free newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.